Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Daily Manchester United and the Daily Crystal Palace. Don't worry Eagles. This might be an unfamiliar voice, but trust me, you have clicked on the right episode. It's a joint venture here today, our crossover episode ahead of Sunday's game. I'm Kieran McGinley from the Daily Manchester United. And of course, I must introduce first Dan Tanner of the Crystal Palace podcast. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing all right so far. How are you guys doing? Do I want to bring up your managers recently or recent form, or do I leave that for a little while?
You can leave it for later. I'm sure we'll have an attack for you then. And of course, also from the Manchester United side is Cormac Dooley. Sorry, Cormac. How are you?
No, I'm doing good. Looking forward to a weekend of football. Hopefully we can beat Palace at Old Trafford.
Well, let's find out, hey? An enthralling 0-0 draw, I believe, last time we had the game at Selhurst Park. And I suppose for this first part, Dan, us Manchester United representatives will ask you the questions for this one. So first and foremost, how has your season been? And I guess the first question I want to ask before I hand it over to Cormac is, how much are you missing Elise since his departure?
Well, we missed him to begin with, like the first probably 7 or 8 games, obviously. We've probably missed his creativity, etc., and sort of just general being a nuisance to everybody, being the target man for every defender. But since then, since we got the win against Spurs, we've started to sort of not quite need him so much. The Eze's kind of taken that role of being the target man, and now he's over the last 3 or 4 games started to become the kind of the playmaker I wanted him to be. Because at the beginning of the season, it was very much get the ball, head down, and he's going to try and do a wonder goal. Since probably just before Christmas, he started to get a few assists. Him and Mateta have started to become really quite deadly. Just ask West Ham the other week. I think at the beginning of the season, it was a problem, but now it's starting to become less of an issue. Our issue at the moment is for the next 48 hours or so is trying to keep what star players we do have. As the January transfer window's got a little over a day left. Probably, I think it's even less than that actually. So that's kind of my main concern at the moment. And the season started off pretty woefully, but as a Palace fan, you're kind of used to it starting off slow and then suddenly get a bit of form. And now we'll go into the bit where we don't have some form for a while, and it'll probably start getting better at the end of March or something. We'll just drop some really silly points again.
I feel like you're going to get an upturn of form against us. I can feel it in the air. It's going to be one of those games. Cormac, I'll hand to you to ask Dan the question.
Yeah, Dan. What I want to know is, obviously United would be on a bad run of form. How confident are you going into this match at Old Trafford on Sunday? Do you expect Palace to kind of go and get a win or at least a point? Or would you be disappointed if, you came out of there with nothing?
I'm fairly confident, especially your form at the minute is up and down. I don't know which Man United is going to... Back in the day, I wouldn't have been. Because I grew up in the era where Man United were bulletproof. So grew up in the era of the class of 92 and all those guys. But in this season, and I think, definitely this season, I'm a little bit more confident. I can get away with a draw. I think it'll probably be a fairly close-knit, maybe 1-1. I just don't... We're scoring now, but we can't keep a clean sheet. That's our problem. But we're also on that bit of where we've had a good bit of form, and now we're going to drop into the bad bit for a while. So if we can get away with a 1-1 draw, I'll be happy. If we get a win, I'll be ecstatic, and I will be tweeting at you. So be ready for that.
We're ready.
I'll definitely be sending the banter tweets back.
Oh dear, can't wait for that one, Cormac?
Yeah.
What I will say is, I've always been a fan favourite of Jean-Philippe Mateta, not because he's got his own fantastic chant. He's been a bit quiet this season, but he's one of those that just seems to pop up every now and again just to remind you that he's there. And he's got a couple of goals in his last few, hasn't he? Last few games. So is he back?
I think he's kind of back. last season it was very much the back end where he started to score more, but it was also the thing of that he was getting starts. So he started off pretty badly as most of the Palace team did, but I think he's our top scorer. I think it's either 7 or 8. I'm not sure, but he's our top scorer at the moment, and he's starting to look like an actual threat. He can muscle people off the ball. He's got a couple of little tricks up his sleeve if he needs to. So I wouldn't say necessarily back, but I think he's definitely more of a threat than he was, say, in November or October.
Yeah, I will say before I hand over to Cormac, he has got double the goals of Premier League goals, I should say, of Xerxes and Højlund combined. So before we all spout off about, is Mateta quiet, he's been double as loud as both of our strikers combined. Anyway, Cormac, over to you.
Yeah, no, I know you've been talking about kind of Mateta, Eze, but is there any players kind of from the midfield, deeper line or, back line that United should kind of be worried about, players that won't be easy to get by on Sunday?
I'm not sure when it comes to the midfield. That's kind of one of our big weaknesses, that we've got not exactly the strongest midfield in the world. They're going to be problems like Hughes and Decore are definitely going to be ones that are going to be tackling hard, but they're not the playmakers, which is kind of what we've been kind of missing. If Wharton was there, but I'm not expecting him back until something like March, might have been a little bit more interesting. Roman Essie might be kind of a wild card as the new boy, and very much of the Alacy mould. Get the ball, run very quickly at defenders, and be a real sort of tricky winger. And being 19 and trying to prove himself in the Premiership, he's going to be going for it. He's got no fear, and he's going to definitely want to make his name at Old Trafford.
That's for sure. I know one person who's made a name at Palace is Mark Gahey. I mean, he's been phenomenal over the last year or so. He's broken into the England team. He's sort of now on the fringe of the England team, more often in it than not. And he's been a threat from set pieces as well. He's got 3 goals so far in the Premier League. I mean, how important is he in sort of that heart of your defence?
I would say he's definitely the heart of it, as also being the club captain. And scoring from set pieces, but he also has a great habit of scoring own goals as well. So it's a kind of swings and roundabouts, really. Sometimes he'll be really good and he'll be solid and reliable, and then other times he'll make some really either silly mistake, much like the one on the weekend where he got called for encroachment on the penalty, which I'm still not entirely sure if it was him that they were calling or if it was Lacroix, but apparently they called Gahey on it. But yeah, he can be really solid, but he does have a tendency to get like maybe slightly out of position, because we kind of use this three-man mid defence, which we now lost Chalobah to Chelsea because they called back him on loan. So now we've had to slot Richards in there, which I'm still not entirely sure he's fully match fit. So we'll see how we're going. But they are starting to work as a decent sort of team back there as the back three of Lacroix and Gahey. So it's very much, we'll just see how they go, because, Gahey will be really good sometimes and really bad some other times. So, yeah.
I'll leave the last question for you, Dan, to Cormac. Take it away, Cormac.
Dan. I want to know as well, I was talking about some of the Palace strengths, but I want to know your take on like any United players you're kind of fearful of facing on Sunday. I know we haven't been in the best bit of form, and probably compared to the last few seasons, we don't have too many names right now, but any players you're not looking forward to coming up against?
I'm not sure if Garnacho is usually the one I'm going for, because he can just by himself, he can just decide, right, I'm just going to do this now. He'll do some very mad stuff. Because I think in the last game, I pointed him out as being a threat. And Muñoz just couldn't handle him. All those through balls and stuff. And down that right wing, just Muñoz could not keep up with him. So he's probably the one at the moment I would think being the main threat. A lot of the other attacking options are very hit and miss at the moment. As you mentioned earlier, Højlund is not exactly on all cylinders, but when he gets a decent ball in, he can probably be a nasty threat as well. But yeah, most of the other ones I think I'm relatively confident of handling, but it's still it's still Old Trafford, so I think it's more the refereeing decisions are going to go your way more than any kind of player. Sorry, that's a very old Trafford.
A lot.
That's
A lot's
time.
changed in 11 years, Dan, that's for sure. A lot has changed. Well, listen, after this break, Dan will be on the offensive against Manchester United, and we all want to see that happen. So join us after this.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Dan, it's back to you now. Give us all you've got.
All right, okay. I've got first question. How does it feel to be down the slumming the bottom end of the table? Just you're not in the dizzy heights you should be. Come on, how does it feel to? You're literally fighting for mid-table position. I think we're almost the same goal difference and the same points halfway through the season. Seriously, how does it feel to be slumming it down this end of the table?
Well, we've scored 2 more than you, but you've conceded 2 fewer than us, I think, or something along those lines. But it's very close, as you say.
Something around that. Yeah,
it's been tough. I mean, there have been games that, I take the Liverpool game, for example, a game we could have won right at the death with Harry Maguire in the middle. And to follow that up with an FA Cup, I wouldn't call it an upset, but I would definitely call it against the odds against Arsenal, being down to 10 men for an hour and then winning it on penalties. And then after that, we get games against Newcastle, or before that it was Newcastle, but then we have Brighton, who we just get absolutely pummeled. It didn't make a lot of sense, but this is a new system, which is what we've been saying for 11 years now. Give it time, give this new system time. But genuinely, this is 3 at the back with wing backs. We've brought in Patrick Dorgu now, who looks like will play on the left wing back role. We don't know if he's going to start against Palace, but certainly he might be in and amongst the selection there. But we have really struggled, Cormac. I'm sure you'll be delighted to jump on and be enthused about how good we've been, eh?
Absolutely ecstatic. Yeah, no, I think first few months of the season, obviously we were slipping down there. I was, quite shocked. But honestly, I think recent results, I think we deserve to be down there. I mean, we're scrapping out against Southampton, who have 6 points all season, just about getting a win at them at Old Trafford. And yeah, just in general, the play hasn't been good. It's been that of a mid-table club, a little bit below that. And yeah, obviously, Amorim, we have a new manager now, different to when Ten Hag taken over at the start of the season. But yeah, I mean, hopefully a few signings can come in and we can hopefully get a bit of form going now with Amorim after a few months. We can work our way up that table and hopefully finish above Palace at least.
So the aim is to sort of hit mid-table now. Really, that's what it's come down to.
Yeah, top half would be nice.
See, that's what we started at. We're aiming for that. That's our pinnacle. It's like, you're going, right, I'll just take it.
I know. It's ridiculous, Dan. I'll be honest with you. I mean, there was that slight hope maybe in November. It's like, yeah, but we're not too far away from top 4. I think I was quoted to say, like, we're only 4 points away, yet we're down in 11th or something like that. So it's not all bad. Since then, we're now on 29 points. The top 4 are now on 41. So that's a gap of 12 points. So it's a little bit of a mind the gap scenario. But I'll be honest with you, it could be a lot worse because the Premier League, every single opponent has been beaten by somebody this season. It's just been absolutely mad. No one's been able to sort of keep a consistent run apart from Liverpool. And that's why this whole league has been so topsy-turvy.
Yeah, we were talking about this, I think, just before the new year, that like this league is insane this season. Like there are so many like either really early goals, really late goals, and just sort of really mad like results. Like even your sort of noisy neighbours had their sort of issue just before Christmas, and everybody's going, "Oh right, they're out the title. Oh, it's 3 games. Calm down."
Yeah,
but yeah, I was also going to ask sort of, how do you think the new manager's getting on? Because I know it's been a couple of games now. He started off all right, but it's been also a bit also kind of hit and miss as well. Do you think is it a managerial system, or is it the recruiting that is kind of the issue?
I'll let you field this one, Cormac, to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a combination of both. Obviously, a lot of the signings we brought in the summer were Ten Hag signings, and I don't feel like a lot of them really fit the system. Players like Xerxes, he's not really a number 9. Where can he play in this system? Obviously now Dorgu's come in, which I think will be a huge help because this system relies on the wing backs massively. So hopefully he can come in, change a few things. But yeah, I would like to see Amorim be a bit more adaptable. I think the 5-back, certain teams struggled. I'd like to see maybe a 4-back sometimes be implemented, change things up a bit. But yeah, I think it has to do with just players, I think, getting used to the system. And to be fair, I've liked some of the things Amorim's brought in. I think how he's handling this whole Rashford debacle, I quite like it, to be honest. I want players being called out for their attitudes, and if they're not working hard enough, and not putting in the effort to play or want to play for United, then they shouldn't be.
Yeah, I mean, just for me, the general consensus is we're behind the manager. In these scenarios, it's a case of it's a new system for these players. We're trying to play a 3 centre-back system with 6 centre-backs, and one of them is Johnny Evans, who, I mean, he's put in a fantastic shift, but we've just sort of put him in the ice bath now and said, now rest, please. You've done enough. But yeah, it's been tough to watch though as well. It has been really tough to watch these past few months, and that sounds like it's really entitled. With a reigning FA Cup winners, how is this possible? But really it is. When we come up against the mid-table sides, the sides that were scared to come to Old Trafford or scared to host us all those years ago, now we're just sort of saying it's a nice day out in Manchester. So it's been really frustrating to actually watch this team. It doesn't seem to be much consistency right now from game to game. You can't really predict who's going to turn up, who's going to perform, apart from Amad Diallo. He's going to have a good game no matter what at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. There's a decent few players that are still knocking around that are at least putting in some kind of shift, but it just seems to be like a lot of the marquee signings have just decided we're just going to take our paycheck and carry on. There's just there's no real motivation to move forward, which is very sort of kind of like I would definitely say that feels disheartening, because I've always praised the likes of Brentford and Brighton and stuff like that. They've got recruitment. They've gone in and got players that fitted the system. They may not have been sort of world-class players, but they fit the system. But Man United's one, I've just been almost putting square pegs in round holes. It's just, we're going to force you to play this system just because you're a big name. But yeah, that's it's very sort of, it's amusing to watch them kind of crumble. The same with Spurs, that the lofty heights of the Champions League, and then now you're having to play sort of dogged mid-table fixtures with teams that, well, they think they can have a go at you now, which really shouldn't be
and
the
they
way.
can, yeah, we let them for the most part. No, I agree. It's common knowledge that the last 11 years of a transfer window, we've gone for the high-profile signings, but the high-profile signings 5 years late. We're bringing in Varane and Casemiro towards the end of their careers. There's a reason Real Madrid will sell you Varane and Casemiro when they're in their early 30s. There is a specific reason. I mean, I have my say about Ibrahimovic. He's probably been one of our best high-profile marquee signings, and he was only there for a season and about 10 games after that, if that. And he helped us win a European trophy, the Europa League. So it's been very consistent on trying to find high-profile signings, get them into the club. Di Maria being another one. I don't actually know how that one didn't work out, for goodness sake. But the high-profile signings, we seemed too late to the party. And the last transfer window we had seemed to be a real positive shift. We're getting in Matthias de Ligt. Yes, he's in his mid-20s, but still plenty of years ahead of him. We've got Lenny Yoro in, who's, he's 19, a couple of mistakes here and there, but you've got to remember, he's 19. I think it's been a real positive look into that last transfer window. We've signed Patrick Dorgu, again, another youngster, 20 years old, hopefully to fit in that left wing back role. So there's really been a shift from high profile veteran signings to now looking at promising youngsters and giving them a chance. I I don't know how you feel, Cormac, but that's how I've seen it over the years.
No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, Ineos, their first window in the summer, we were talking about the other night, thought it was brilliant. Finally, some kind of sensible signings. We're not throwing cash, overpaying 10, 50 million, 20 million for players. But yeah, no, I mean, the last few years, it's been rough. Even like Mount, we're signing just that number 7 jersey seems to be cursed, because whatever player we sign as a number 7 just doesn't seem to work out since Ronaldo left, really. Or Valencia even was probably the last good one to don that jersey.
But he even switched to 25.
Yeah.
Had one season of 7.
Exactly.
I thought, actually, give me 25.
He got out before it got bad. Yeah, exactly. bit of sensibility to him. But no, yeah, the recruitment, I think, hopefully Amorim now, he's got his first signing in Dorgu in. Hopefully he'll have a sensible head on him and he'll work in tandem with Ineos, and we can keep that pattern of sensible signings from the summer going. And yeah, Amorim can get the players he wants in, and hopefully maybe Gyökeres or Inacio, as you were saying the other night, Kieran, can come in, and yeah, hopefully it'll be a positive outlook in the future.
All eyes on the 3rd of February. That's when the window closes. Let's see what happens. Dan, we'll give you one more question. Go on. Hit us where it hurts.
Well, the last question, I think, is pretty much going to be, how do you think the game's going to go on the weekend? Just because the last game we had, it was 0-0, but you guys could have won 3-0 within the first half an hour. We let you play the way you wanted to, and we put up absolutely no fight whatsoever. So now that it's a few months down the road, Palace has started to they've got their first win, they're starting to go in form. You're kind of in and out of winning. So how do you think the game's going to go, and what do you think the score's going to be?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said I think we'd win.
Ever the optimist.
Yeah. Judging off the recent run of form, I think I'd be too optimistic saying that. But then again, it is Old Trafford, and I mean, we're coming off a Fulham win there. Granted, we didn't play too well, and to be fair, Fulham didn't play the best either. But no, being at Old Trafford, as you were saying, we could have bet you. I was saying a week ago, I think, to Niall, another United podcast member, that I think our best half all season was that first half at Selhurst Park. I remember hearing Selhurst Park groan and moan, and you couldn't get out, and we just had you in. Complete different second half that game. But yeah, you just never know at United. I mean, I hope not a loss. I think a draw, as you said, Dan, I think I could see happening. Kind of a low scoring one, like 1-1, I think would be a result I could see happening, yeah.
Niall and I were talking about this on yesterday's podcast. We kind of think maybe 1-0. The heart says 1-0 United. The head probably says it's going to be a draw. I think it's going to be a cagey game. I think this is going to be a game where both sides are going to be cautious not to lose the ball. And so who will take the risk? Who's going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and take the risk that might lead to a goal? But at the same time, who will take that risk? And it leaves them with egg on their face. It could really will be a 0-0 or a 1-1, purely at the base that these two teams are mid-table, 12th and 13th. And who's going to be the one to take the risk? I guess we'll find out come Sunday. But there we go. Right, part 3 coming up, and we're all going to fight each other because it's a combined 11 I'm going to have to try and make. Oof, goodness help us. We'll be back after this.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
The Global Sports Podcast Network is changing the face of football podcasts with dedicated daily content for every Premier League team, women's football, fantasy football, and a daily Premier League wrap-up broadcast in 5 different languages. It's your one-stop shop for your daily football fix. Find GSPN wherever you find your usual podcasts.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Seconds out, round 1. Let's do this. Let's start with goalkeeper. It's pretty much, would you agree, Dan? It's Onana versus Henderson. Two United legends, obviously, facing off against each other to grab this combined 11. Dan, let's put forward your argument for Henderson, and we'll put ours forward for Onana.
Well, Henderson, at the moment, I think he's probably one of the better goalies when it comes to form. He's maybe not he will concede goals, obviously, but the saves he's done this season have been absolutely insane. And like, he's done ones where it's gone underneath him and he's just stopped it underneath him, or he's just slightly taken the paced off the ball and it's deflected off to hit the corner. I think an Aston Villa game is probably one of the best saves I've seen all season. So I think probably Henderson out of these two probably nicks it, because Onana's been kind of mad. Because I've always kind of half rated Onana as a half decent goalie, but since he's been to United, I don't know what they're teaching him there. But I definitely, if it's between those two, I'm going to pick Henderson, but a slight bias
only
there.
A slight one. Cormac, I kind of think Onana's been quite good this season. Okay, he's had moments of eccentricity, but he single-handedly got us that point against Ipswich. Ipswich! It got us a point. That's a sentence I didn't think I'd say this season, but here we are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it is very tight between the two, and I actually love Dean Henderson when he was at United. I think, Onana, to be fair, his saves have been equally as good, if not better, I think, than Henderson, although I haven't seen as much as Henderson as Onana, obviously. But even going back to the last game against Palace, he could have went 1-0 up, but Onana had an unbelievable double save. In recent games, he has pulled out, great saves. He's kept the mistakes to a minimum. So as long as you take away the mistakes, I think I might just say Onana with maybe a bit of slight bias.
Yeah. And it's the neutral head having to come in saying, look, these two have both played for United. What are we going to do? You're right, Cormac. I've also had a soft spot for Dean Henderson, and I don't think he got a proper run out at Manchester United. I mean, he had to compete with David De Gea. Not many players could compete with David De Gea, the form he was in, St. David himself. Do you know what? I'm going to rock the boat. I'm happy to concede goalie, and I don't normally do this, Dan, so consider yourself a very, very lucky man. But I'm going to put Henderson in goal, and I'll face the wrath of Cormac later. But I mean, Henderson, there's a difference between Henderson keeping Palace in 13th and Onana keeping Manchester United 12th. There is a difference there. There is a difference.
True.
So I'll put Henderson in goal. Right. We've got similar systems, actually. 3-4-2-1 or a 5-3-2, whatever you like to call it. It's roughly a similar setup. So we could probably keep the same formation. 3 centre-backs then. Dan, obviously, who are you going to put forward as candidates for that back three?
Well, I think there's only really 2 candidates, really. Gahey being the sort of top-class centre-back that he is. England, fantastic for England. Really fairly consistent when it comes to Palace. We've gone over this earlier. And Lacroix, I think, has got to be a candidate for this as well. He started off not so brilliantly. It took him a couple of weeks to get acclimatized to English football, but he's such a sort of heart of the team almost. After every single game, he's going over to the Palace fans and celebrating with them. He'll get the chants going. He can do sort of really quite accurate long passes as well, given half a chance. So he's got that in his locker. I think he's also got a couple of goals as well. So very much of a sort of set piece threat too. Though I don't think there's any other, because the other Palace centre backs was Chalobah, who's no longer with us. He's been returned to Chelsea, and Chris Richards is only just gotten back into sort of that position because of Chalobah, and our other one, Riyad. He got injured at the beginning of the season and got injured again with an ACL, so he's out pretty much until the beginning of next season. So that's basically that's what we've got as Palace centre backs. So mine are definitely Gahey and Lacroix. So
who's your United candidate then? There's a glaring spot at one of those centre back spots. Who are you eyeing up for the United side?
I'm not sure when it comes to the United side, really. That's kind of where I was wondering what you guys think for the United spot, or if you've got anyone for
Cormac?
The other 3.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's been a lot of chopping and change with our centre backs. A lot of different partnerships trying out. I think 2 I put forward as candidates would probably be De Ligt. I think he's been very solid this season. And then the other one I'd say is probably Lisandro Martinez. I know he's had a bit of rough patches this season, but I think the last few games he's starting to come back to his old self. And obviously we know he can grab a goal as well when needed.
Yeah, I am actually half inclined to put Maguire in there as a wild card because he's had a lot of stick over the past few years. Rightly or wrongly, you decide. But this season he's been brilliant. I mean, he's been really good in the air. And as part of a back three, I think he's thrived in this system. He really has. And to have two sort of centre backs alongside him that could cover that, the wings for him, he's able to focus on himself, almost, just to be that guardian in the air, to win those balls, those high balls, if anyone wants to play over the top. He's been caught out a couple of times this season, fair enough, but I think he's had a much better season than most that he's been in a Manchester United shirt. So it comes to the question then, how do we fight this? I've always rated Gahey. I think he's a fantastic player. I really do. And I think he's of a similar mould of Maguire. He's very good at set pieces, absolute demon in the air. It's someone who's really difficult to get off the ball as well, very strong. In my mind, I'm thinking De Ligt, Gahey and Martinez. That's my pick for a back three. Dan, are you looking on with me with disdain there, or are you going to let...
No, I just thought, no, it's fine. That's fine. Only Martinez tried to break Kamada's ankles last time we played, so I might have a little bit of a... Which everybody
He's
ignored,
our informed scorer. He's got to be starting, Martinez. He has to be.
The goal threat.
Goal threat. Yes, absolutely. Deflection shots, he's there. Cormac, do you agree with that back three, or any changes?
No, that was the back three I was going to say as well. I think Gahey, obviously, I think he's the best out of the bunch, really, out of all of them. He's definitely in there. And then, I'd have to put Martinez and De Ligt in there as well.
Okay, then let's have a look at the two wing backs and the two holding midfielders. Cormac, I'll let you kick this one off. What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, in terms of, right wing back, Mazraoui, I think has been phenomenal, one of our best players this season. But then we've been in the discussion, is he really a wing back? Adapting the new system, a lot different to when he was playing under Ten Hag. But I would have to, I think, put Mazraoui there just for how consistent he's been. And then for the left back, we haven't really had a proper left back, so I would say Tyreek Mitchell from Palace, I think, has to go there. In terms of the holders, I'm a big fan of Adam Warden, but I guess he's out injured right now, so can't really put him in. I suppose it depends. I'm trying to think up the team if bring Bruno back or not. I'd say I'd have to bring Bruno back. I'm thinking of the attacking player. I'd say Bruno in there, and I'm quite a big fan of Will Hughes. I think he's a decent player, to be fair, but I do like Ugarte too. I might have to be a bit biased and say Ugarte and Bruno there in the middle.
I want to give out to shout out to Jefferson Lerma. I think he's a good player for that Palace side as well. And Dan, I see him more as a ball-winning midfielder, and Will Hughes being that sort of playmaker. Is that a right assumption to make there? Because that sort of might influence my decision.
It's kind of like all the Palace midfielders are all ball winners. We don't really have a playmaker. It's get the ball and then just try and get it out to Eze. But Hughes has had some pretty good assists, especially that one where he's been compared to Iniesta against City, where it just it's the perfect ball. I've never seen him do that before, because on our podcast gave him a lot of stick for the first couple of months. But he did start to come out good. I don't know if you probably put him in with this kind of lineup. I think I'd probably slightly agree with you guys and put on Fernando back there a bit more, Fernandez, and just try and drop a bit more of a playmaker. I can't think of anybody else at the moment, but when it's for right backs, I think can't ignore Munez as a sort of flying right back there. Very, very much a probably more natural wing back than Maserati is, because I think he's a slightly converted winger. So I think he'd probably be a bit more of a natural selection there. And Tyreek Mitchell, I don't think he's pretty much the only shout when it comes to left backs out of the two teams. So that probably my considerations for this.
Yeah, because I'm thinking Mazraoui, he's solid defensively. He's probably been one of our best defensive players, but it's right. It's a wing-back system. Does he suit a wing-back system where you have to be strong going forward? And he is limited.
Well, do have a slight... We could use him as one of the holding.
Oh, no. I mean, we try... Well,
you could switch him over and then get Munez and Maserati, and then we can move Onana's
I think that's.
thoughts.
It's a thought. It's a thought.
Just a thought.
Like playing Mazraoui as a number 10 in a
Yeah.
Europa League game, but I don't think that's going to work. I think he's more of a fullback rather than a wingback. Is Mazraoui? I think he's very good defensively. But if we're looking at a system here where we need to use a wingback, perhaps Munoz might be the better shout going forward, because Mazraoui, as good as he is defensively, he is limited going forward and attacking wise. Doesn't quite see the game open up in front of him going forward. Defensively coming towards him, fantastic. But yeah, it's just it's just holding up a mirror there. I'm happy for Munoz and Tariq Mitchell to take the wing-back roles. I'm probably going to put Fernandez and Ugarte as our deep-lying midfielders there. Ugarte's been really good as almost like a destroyer, although he almost got destroyed by a Traore. Made a tackle, cynical tackle, got a yellow, and then has to be subbed off because he picks up a knock. Oh, just a fantastic job from Ugarte. I think Fernandez in that deeper lying playmaking role, I think Amorim's onto something here. A deep line playmaker, maybe even more of a regista, where he doesn't have to do any defending, but it's a case of he picks up the ball deep in midfield and charges forward. He did that against Liverpool, did a really good job of it as well. I think, Amorim's onto something there, so that's probably going to be my sort of mid-bank there. And then we get on to the attackers, Dan. I'll start with you first. It's sort of two attacking midfielders followed by a striker. So who are you thinking for the attacking midfielders?
Attacking midfielders, I think you've got to have Eze in there. I think Eze is definitely a top shout, creative. He's starting to become a playmaker. He's got a deadly shot on him when he wants to. It may not be always accurate, but he can do a worldie when need be. He's a slightly getting into being a sort of, I would say, competent set piece taker. And I think as the other attacking mid, I kind of like Mason Mount, because when he can, he's a decent playmaker, but he does have the same problem that Maddison does at Spurs. Sometimes he'll be really good, but most of the time he's not, but he's a decent set piece taker. And you kind of want one of those, especially when we're having a team like this with Gahey and kind of De Ligt as options in that sort of set piece corner position. It's a little bit of a Hail Mary play when it comes to Mason
unfortunately,
Mount.
He's out injured for quite some time now. Yeah.
Oh, is he out?
No,
I thought he was back in, but either way.
He's going to be injured for some time. We don't know when he's coming back yet. So, I'll fill in there with another United player for you, Ahmad. I think that as much as Eze's a sure in for Palace, I think Diallo has to be a shoe-in for Manchester United. It's as simple as that. He's our top goal scorer in the Premier League with 6. Yeah, you heard that right. With 6 goals in the Premier League. So I think he has to be in there as our goal threat. He's been so good going forward. He's probably the most dangerous player going forward right now. He's in form. It would be silly to bench him. How about you, Cormac? What are you thinking for attacking midfield?
Yeah, no, I think spot on. I think it has to be Eze and Diallo. I think the two of them are a good few levels above anyone else in that position. Diallo's been, as you said, our best player this season, and Eze, I absolutely love watching Eze. I feel like he can change a game at any moment. He's so technical and can shoot from anywhere. So yeah, they'd definitely be my two attacking mids, the two of them.
Oh, that was nice and easy. I'll tell you what's going to be easier, Cormac. Who's starting up top? This is a very easy answer here. There's only one answer it could be.
Oh, as easy as that, has to be Mateta. Has to be. United strikers they've just been too inconsistent this season, and we have no one reliable. We're not really scoring much goals, so easily Mateta.
Yeah, that's the easiest position of the lot, actually, just to put Mateta up top. He has a great song, a great scoring streak when he's in form, but he feels like one of those players who will score against us in the coming match. If he gets a chance, he'll absolutely take it. Dan, agree?
I would totally
I thought you
I think you might do. Because our attacking options aren't any better. Just in general, we only have Mateta. Like, Nketiah hasn't done anything. He scored twice in the League Cup. That's it. The only other option probably would have been Sarr, but there is such a gap between Mateta's form and Sarr at the minute. So, I would totally agree with that. Mateta up front every day of the week when it comes to as it stands at the minute, anyway.
Do you know what? That's not a bad team we've put together. It's good enough for mid-table, I would say. How about that?
Ultimate mid-table team.
What can we say? Well, a win for both sides could get them up to as high as 11th. If a win for Crystal Palace would leapfrog you up above Manchester United, Dan. But as we've said previously, coming to Old Trafford, it's not the fortress it once was. Can you give me your final thoughts heading into Sunday?
I think, very much as we've said earlier, I think it's going to be a very sort of scrappy game. You could probably see you guys probably dominating on possession and probably shots and things like that. But I think it's going to come down to a sort of really scrappy goals. There might even be a penalty or something in there, just because the way that both teams are kind of fairly physical now. We definitely are. We definitely make sure you feel it in the morning when you played against Palace. So I think it's going to be a 1-1 draw. And it's just going to be an absolute ding-dong from end to end.
Cormac, from a United point of view, any final thoughts heading into the game?
Yeah, no, I was just hoping we can get it done. I would love, I know it probably won't happen, but I would love to see Dorgu get a run out at least. Something fresh on that left-hand side. I'm not sure where he is in, the joining process. I know he had his medical, I think, today. So we'll see if he's in the squad or not. I doubt it. But yeah, no, just hoping we can keep our run going, give the fans something to cheer about at Old Trafford, and we start the rebuilding process of the fortress that once was Old Trafford.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully it starts on Sunday. But if it doesn't, I can guarantee there's at least one person on this podcast who will make sure we know and remember that. Well, thank you, gentlemen, so much for joining me. Dan from the Palace podcast and Cormac from the Man United podcast, and me also from the United podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. Let us know what you think as well. Don't forget GSPN Palace, I believe it is, Dan, isn't it? GSPN Palace on all socials.
GSPN Palace. Yep. If you follow the Spotify, all of the links are there. So come and give us a listen, even if you're a Man United fan. We don't mind. Just
if you're a Palace fan, we promise you no one's called Eric over where we are, so you're fine. Don't worry about it. You can find us on GSPN Man United on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, X. As long as all of those platforms haven't been banned yet, we'll wait and see. You can also, if you're Palace or Man United, head to the YouTube page as well. You can actually watch our beautiful faces. How terrifying for you. Global Sports Podcast Network, LTD, and find your playlist, either Palace or Manchester United, and you can start watching the podcasts on YouTube. Well, whatever happens on Sunday, win, loss, draw, let's make it a good one. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great rest of your weekend. Take care.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.